G'day and welcome to David Joshua Ford Live. This is episode 111, and on today's show we're going to take a look at live stream interruptions that can come and how we can avoid that using focus settings. This is usually for Mac iCloud devices, not so much Windows here. So we're going to look at what you need to set up in the iCloud settings and also how to use Apple shortcuts. And of course, if you're using Companion to do sort of broader automation control of your studio, then we want to be able to trigger those shortcuts and those focus modes from Companion. So we're going to take a look at that. So if you're anything like me when you live stream, then you have a bunch of Apple devices. I'm using a Mac Mini for my main sort of server. I've got a MacBook Pro that I present slides off, like what you're looking at now, and then an iPhone for a remote control and an iPad for comments to trigger that. So they're kind of the devices that I've got sitting at my desk here, as well as Stream Decks and pedals to control the show, and then the Mac Mini's sort of away in a rack, and it's all connected either via Ethernet cable or Wi-Fi to the iOS devices. And so what I want is, given that everything is running on the Mac Mini as a server, I want a way to turn on the focus mode there. And then the nature of that is that if the other devices are logged into the same iCloud account, that once one device goes into a focus mode, then the other devices are also going to go into a focus mode. And so that is just going to help with avoiding phone calls coming through or notifications. So for example, I'm using my phone here to trigger different cues in the show, and I don't want a random phone call to come through while I'm doing this. And I'm also using the iPad here to do comments and to trigger that sort of thing on screen. I use this iPad, as a sort of normal iPad. I mean, it's really a production iPad, but for non-live streaming tasks outside of when I'm live streaming. So I want to have notifications. I don't have to manage notifications, basically. I want to be able to just use the iPad, notifications come in, but that when I'm live streaming, that there's going to be no notifications that come across the screen. Also, because I often present across this device, and so I don't want notifications dropping down. So we're going to take a look at how to set that up today, both sort of a simple method for on the Apple iCloud settings, and then a little more in-depth using Companion. So let's take a look at the first part, which is the iCloud focus settings. And so this is kind of the core of it, where we're going to set up the Apple device into a focus mode. I'm just going to get out of this one. So if we go over to our settings over here, go into, I'm on my Mac Mini here, but you could do the same thing on your iPad. I'm just choosing my Mac Mini to set this up on because I have Companion running on it already, and it's just always on. It's always a server, so it's always accessible. You can see I've got a bunch of sort of default focus settings here, and I've added in a live streaming one. So this is the one that I use, and you can see up here that it actually has been triggered at the start of this show. So we'll take a look at how to get that set up. But if you're just starting out, you can come over here and add a focus mode, and I'm just going to add a custom mode. I'm going to make it a different color red. I'm going to just call it live demo, like so. And you can basically just leave it like that. If you've got this sort of setup here, there's actually nothing that will come through in terms of allowing notifications. The main thing you can do, if you want to keep this very simple, there's two things you can do in terms of setting a schedule. Go add schedule. You can either do, or three things, I guess, time, location, or app. So if you only live stream from a particular place, maybe from work, let me go here, then we can set that so that whenever you arrive at this location, that this is scheduled. Or you can go add schedule and base it on a time. So if you, for example, today is Monday at 10 a.m. So just say I wanted to go from like 9, half an hour before I go live, 9:30, and then I'm going to be finished by 10. So if I go 10, 15 a.m. then, and turn off that one. So it's just going to be Mondays at this time slot that this is going to activate. So that's just keeping it very simple. Or maybe there's a week that you're not live streaming on that time, And so you could make it app-based instead. So for example, if you go app, then you could type in something like ATEM. It doesn't look like it's got the controller here, but the ATEM setup, and I go done. So you could have it so that whenever the ATEM setup is available here, I don't know why the software control didn't come up. Boom, boom, just thinking about it. Where are we? Allow that. Okay, so that whenever you've got your ATEM software open, because maybe you just open that when you're live streaming, that will be automatically put into focus mode, and then when you quit that, it will get away from that. So they're kind of some of the simple ways on the Mac that you could just set up the iPhone mode, so the focus mode, and just be done with it. But there are some other things that we want to do to make it more user specific. And so we're going to go into two modes here. One is first setting up some Apple shortcuts. So if we set up some Apple shortcuts, then we can elsewhere in the system trigger the focus mode on or off. So let's go back over to our desktop. And if I hide this one and we go over to shortcuts, Apple shortcuts, you can just add in a shortcut here, and you can type in focus, and you can say set focus, and then you can choose from your drop down. Remember I said live demo, and then we can choose it to be off or on, turned until turned off. Okay, so live demo turned on. And that's basically that, and then you can give the name live focus on, and I'm going to go demo because I have another one here. And then you can also give it a little pretty color if you're going to go red and type in like live or something like that. And then this will update, and under your shortcuts, you'll see you've now got live focus on demo, and if you click like this, it is going to run that. And I've now gone out of my other focus mode. I've got two that I've made here before, so I'm going to use those for the demo. So if I go run that, then you can see that this has gone back to my focus mode of live streaming. So I'm going to use that moving forward. I'm just going to close that down, and I've got two that I've started here. So I've basically created two shortcuts. One is turn live streaming focus on. You can call this whatever you want, but remember, once you name this, you have to use this specific name elsewhere to send a command. So choose a name there. I've got turn live streaming focus on, and then also a sort of the same one, just saying turn live streaming focus mode off. So they're my two there, and you can see here they now show up in my shortcuts, and that brings us to, just going to hide that one away. Part 3, we're going to take a look at how to now trigger this through Companion. So if you just want to keep it simple and just have those settings on the Mac, then you can do that. But you can see there's edge cases where, you know, maybe you're doing some work in the ATEM app and you don't want your focus mode to be on. Or maybe your live streaming time of day changes, and so you don't want to just set that, which, you know, normally I'm Thursdays at 2 o'clock, and today it's Monday at 10 a.m. that I'm doing it, so that wouldn't work. And so for me, what I like is I have a run of show in my Companion automation that is automatically triggers to start the show. And then when I finish the show, I hit a button and it runs a sequence to stop the encoder and sort of like stop all the parts of the live stream. And so they're 2 points that are sort of semi-manually triggered, but I can also just build that into a run of show sequence so I don't have to think about it. So it means that when I come in here and I'm setting up the show, I don't have to remember to turn that focus feature on, because it's very easy to forget that. So as much as possible, I try to automate those things. I've also automated, like, the room fan in here has a switch so that in this start of show sequence, it will turn off the room fan so that the audio is, you know, a bit better. And then when the live stream stops, it'll start again. So things like that, or the focus mode, can help a lot in terms of getting that up and going. So let's take a look at Companion. Over here, so we have buttons, and I'll just sort of show, I'm reworking everything here in my run of show here. So I have a pre-roll button, and I have a wrap button, and I've built them into the show. And I've also got, I think I've got a simpler one here somewhere. Where is it? There we go, Mac focus mode on and off. So I'm gonna show you two things here. One is how to just from companion send it straight to the local computer, and then also to a different computer. So if we come back to my setup here, where are we? Let's go back to here. The first mode that I'm going to show you is companion is running here and on this Mac Mini, and it's going to send the command locally within the computer. And then after that, I'll show you how, if you don't have your device, if you're running companion on a computer that is not logged into the iCloud, you're going to need to send that command to a different computer like this MacBook Pro. So we'll start with the first one. And so it's really just, I've created a Mac focus on and off. So just keep an eye on this little thing up here. This button will change from the full circle for live streaming on to the, I think it's the moon for if it's just turned off, and then anyone can call and notifications can come through. So we are going to, I'm just going to move these buttons down. So you're going to create a button. Let's just call it focus on, and we're going to create a shell, internal run shell path local. And I can't remember all this, so I'm just going to copy this and I'll talk you through it. So in this path, you're going to paste in this, which is osascript space -e space, and then just a straight quote, which is tell application space double shorts straight quote shortcut events to run the shortcut named, and then turn live streaming focus on. And you'll remember that back in our shortcuts we had this specific name here. So if you've capitalized something, or you've make sure that this shortcut matches what you're saying here. And so it's going to be turn it on. And then I've got the same thing down here, which is exactly the same command, just off for the other one. So keep an eye on this little button here, and I'm just going to shift click this to execute it, or I can actually just click over here. So if we test this, you can see that live streaming is turned off, and this is going back to the regular kind of symbol here. And so now I'm my live stream is susceptible for notifications on my iPad or family to call through. And otherwise we can go Mac focus on, and you'll see that it'll take a moment because it's going to iCloud, and then the devices are sort of coming back. Has it gone on yet? Can't see it yet. I think I turned it on. Let me check on the Mac Mini. Yeah, it's on. It might take there we go. Takes a moment to come across. So what you're looking at is, if I pull the screen across, this is my screen sharing over here. So this is the Mac Mini, and it will happen instantly on this device, on the Mac Mini. But the MacBook Pro that we're looking at here, it'll take a couple of seconds for it to sort of reflect that across your iPads or iPhone devices. But within a second or two, every iOS device that's logged into that iCloud account is going to reflect that focus mode. So it just makes it super easy to manage that. So just remember that we were talking about doing a local command here. So this was just very simply internally, that action is available within companion to send a local command. But if you're running a setup where you have companion on some sort of server and you're not logged into your iCloud and you're using it somewhere else, say on this MacBook Pro, maybe on this MacBook Pro, you could set up the shortcuts and the focus modes there. Then we need a different way of telling companion to enable the focus mode on this other device. And for that, we're going to use Bitfocus Listener. So the link is in the chat. If you want to click on that, it's going to go through to, where are we? Bitfocus, to the downloads page. And you can see Listener 1.04, and you can grab that, download that, and open that, and it's going to look like this. I think I can set that up. Here we go. And then the Bitfocus Listener is going to, you're going to bind it to the network connection of that computer. So my MacBook Pro, which we're looking at here, has an Ethernet address of .16 or Wi-Fi .26. So I'm using .16 for the Ethernet. And so that's what I would use to send the command back to this computer. Remember, back over, where are we going? Wait, over here. I'm going to send, so now I'm talking about this presenter computer here that I'm going to be sending the command to is .16, and then my Mac Mini is .11, the one that's going to send the command out. So, all right, so we've downloaded Bitfocus Listener, and we've opened that on the receiving computer, which is .16. I'm going to go back to Companion, and that's where I've got these two buttons here that we're going to use to execute. So I got MacFocus on or off, and basically I've got MacFocus on. This will, if you go to connections, you can scroll down the bottom. I've added in 3 listeners here. I've got my Mac Mini, and I've got my MacBook Pro 16, and then my I got a 13-inch one as well, which is not connected. So these are the ones that are on and connected. Or if you're starting from scratch, let's get rid of that. You can go Bitfocus Listener, and you would add in a demo. I'm going to add in demo. Scroll down, Bitfocus Listener demo. Oh, we've got to click on that. And that's the target IP is going to be the IP of the computer. So remember, for this one on the MacBook Pro, it was the .16. So I would copy that over, 192.168.7.16 target port. And then the password is, you can generate a new password or copy the password to clipboard, copy that and paste that in there and save it. I'm just going to copy that one, paste that in here, and now those two are linked, and you can see that that is in there and it's working. I'm just going to turn that off for now, and I'm just going to focus on the one that I already have set up with this computer, which is RF16. So then under my buttons, I've just created a button here, and I'm going to copy this one too. All right, so we're going to go create button and focus on, and we're going to go listener, RF16, and there's a bunch of things that we can choose here, but we want to send a, I can't remember, shell or AppleScript. Let me say, what did I use? I was using shell command. I think you can use AppleScript, but it was this, I find Bitfocus Listener is still pretty fresh, and there's, I don't know if there's bugs, but it's just, there's a lot of stuff that's not documented yet, and it's things, there's not really any documentation of like how to build this out. So some of the commands are limited. All right, so we're going to add in a shell command, listener, L-I-S-T-E-N-E-R. Man, I can't type. Add in a shell command, and I'm just going to trash that one. And the shell command to, so remember there's different ones I could choose here. I could focus on the Mac Mini, but I want to send it to my MacBook Pro 16-inch. So I'm choosing that one, and then in here I'm going to paste in the same thing. Remember, it was OSA script space -E space short quote tell application shortcut events to run the shortcut named quote turn live streaming focus on was our Apple shortcut. And so now if I think I've got that all set up, that should be, it's already on, so let's turn it off. Just wait there. Okay, so live streaming is off. And so now if I test this button, it will pop up with this. It says Bitfocus system wants to control the shortcuts, blah, blah, blah. You go allow in the Apple settings, and you can see it has enabled the live streaming there. So hopefully that was useful for how to set that up. All right, let me jump over to here. Let me take a look. So hopefully that helped. I'm going to do a bit more I'm looking forward to Bitfocus Listener becoming more developed, because I think that's going to be a nice native way for a companion to speak to computers, because that's an application that's sort of already on the Bitfocus website. It seems fairly preliminary to me at the moment. Like, for example, I've been trying to build out slideshow controls using Bitfocus Listener, and it's very unclear what keys to press, and some of the modifiers don't seem to work. So I feel like there needs to be further documentation and testing of that, but I'm hoping that down the line that becomes a useful utility to link companion to control of a computer. So watch this space for that. All right, well, that's all we have on this show. So hopefully that was helpful for you. Until next week, take care. davidjoshuaford.com is where you can go to grab free downloads of my ATEM mini control, and then there's other paid profiles for larger control of ATEMs and PTZ cameras. So until next week, take care. I'll see you then.